Hello everyone and welcome to today's session which is about comparing and contrast. Such an important topic that almost always used in academic writing and speaking. It is not exaggerated to say that there is no single published paper does not have comparing or contrast in its text. Therefore, today we are going to go through the most important tools used for comparing or making comparison and also for making contrast. First of all, we know from our previous English study, that in English the adverbs and the adjectives can be one syllable or two syllables or more than syllable. And we can do the comparative and superlative for these two kinds of adjectives and adverbs differently. For example, to do the comparative and superlative for one syllable adjective or adverb, simply we add er to the end of the word and est to the end of the word to make a superlative. For example, high, higher, highest; gentle, gentler, gentlest. Similarly, for adverbs, soon, sooner, soonest; fast, faster, fastest, and so on, hard, harder, hardest. For two syllables, adjectives and adverb, we need to add more and less to make a comparative. And also we need to add most and least to make a superlative. For example, pouring, it's two syllables. So it's pouring, more or less pouring, most or least pouring. So on for the other adjectives with two syllables, careful, talented, and so on. For adverbs, regularly, more or less regularly, most or least regularly, seriously, reliably, same, most, least, more, less. So we know all this stuff from our previous study. As is an important tool using in comparison and making a comparison between two objectives or between two stuff. The main structure of it is as plus adjective or adverb plus as. For example, let's take an example. The World Health Organization has suggested that some sunbeds can be as lethal as cigarette smoking. Sunbeds, which is when the people exposure their skin to sun. So the WHO, Health World Organization, suggested that this is not good. This is as bad as smoking a cigarette. This is as bad as smoking a cigarette, or as lethal as cigarette smoking. Now, the bad of the bad effect of sunbeds is similar to the bad effect of cigarette smoking, and this is the meaning of this sentence. Let's take another sentence. Some researchers have argued that biodiesel does not work as efficiently as regular diesel. In this sentence, the meaning is different from the first sentence. The meaning of this sentence, the main aim of this sentence is that the regular diesel is better than the biodiesel. and we can extract this by reading it again. The researcher have argued, leave this part, the biodiesel does not work as efficiently as regular diesel, is not as efficient as regular diesel. Biodiesel is not as efficient as if we say it in different way, biodiesel is not as efficient as a regular diesel, or biodiesel does not work as efficiently as regular diesel. So there's a key differences in the comparison between the first sentence and the second sentence. Also, we can use this tool with adding a and a noun. This noun could be the subject, or a word refers to the subject. For example, it was not as effective a law as the government had hoped. So the subject here is the law. The subject here is a law, and we add it after a to the effective, to the subject, to the adjective, and the sentence is it is not as effective a law as the government had hoped, or as the government expected. It is not good as it is not good as the government expected. We can say the same sentence in a different way. The law was not as effective as the government had hoped. See here, the law. We can put the subject inside as by adding the subject and a before it. Another sentence. Alexander argues that Churchill, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during the World War II. So Alexander argues. Alexander is the name of anyone, a journalist or possibly scientist, anyone. Alexander argues that Churchill was not always as optimistic a leader as he has been portrayed. Those a leader here, a leader refers to the Churchill, refers to the subject. It is not the subject, but it refers to the subject. Those he was not as optimistic. He was not optimistic always. He was not optimistic always. As it has been portrayed, or as he has been shown, as he has been shown to the public. So then again, Alexander argues that Churchill was not always as optimistic a leader as he was portrayed. There are some ways that we can use to increase or decrease the tone of the sentence, or strengthen the sentence, or make it weaker. For example, to increase the tone of the sentence, we can use the tool to. For example, the conditions of the contract proved too difficult for the company to fulfill. As a normal sentence, we can say the contracts of the conditions of the contract are difficult to fulfill. Are difficult to fulfill. This is the normal sentence. But because we need to increase the tone of it, or make it stronger, we can change it or say it in this way. The conditions of the contract proved too difficult for the company to fulfill. By the way, all the words inside brackets we can add or we can remove. We can put it to make this to make the sentence clearer. But if we remove them, the sentence is still correct. Yeah, and another tool which is enough to make the sentence weaker, to reduce the tone of the sentence. For example, the proposed change to the layout of the factory were easy enough for the owner to implement it without causing any significant delay in the production. Those these proposals, these changes are easy enough for them to do. They are easy enough for them to do. For example, the questions in the exam are easy enough for anyone to pass. Or to make the sentence stronger, the questions of the last exam were too difficult for the students to pass, and so on. So we can use some tools like to and enough to increase or decrease the tone of the sentence, or make the sentence weaker or stronger. Another important and simple tool we can use in making comparative is than. For example, manufacturing productivity is lower in the UK than it is, or without it is, than in France and Germany. So the manufacturing productivity in France and Germany is better than manufacturing productivity in the UK. Very simple use, very simple tool to make a comparison. Manufacturing productivity in the law is lower in the UK than in France and Germany. Another example, Penson International, which is a brand of it's a name of company, is failing because it markets its product less successfully than its competitors do, or less successfully than its competitors. So the competitors, their competitors doing better than them. Their competitors doing better than them. So then is very important tool and easy to use tool as well. Now it's well known in English that we can say the same sentence with different ways. And here's an example. Employment figures are higher in Spain than in Portugal. So Spain does better in employment figures than Portugal. If we get the meaning of this sentence, and say it in different way, using as for example, employment figures are not as high in Portugal as in Spain. So the two sentences using different tools of comparing, but they got the same meaning. The employment figure are not as high in Portugal as in Spain, or employment figures are higher in Spain than in Portugal. And by the way, you need to know all these tools. You need to be aware of all these tools, because in many cases you need to paraphrase the sentence more than once. To write it in your academic writing, or to say it in your academic speaking. It's not good to get one tool and stick with it. It's better to learn all the tools and use them in different way, in different situation. Use variety of tools. There is another important tool in comparing, and in comparing. For example, let's read this sentence. The longer a company is not necessarily to use that. The longer a company has traded, the more the public tends to trust it. So the longer, the more, the longer, the more. So, it's obvious that there's a condition here, and there's a condition here, and kind of comparing the time of trading with the trust of public. So we are comparing the time of trading with the public trust. So the longer a company has traded, the more the public tends to trust it. Without this long period of time of trading, the public wouldn't ever trust the company. The the longer, the more public tends to trust. Another example. It may not always be true that the harder athletes train, the better they perform. Athletes train, the harder athletes train, athletes sport people, the sport people is not always true. This is proof scientifically that it's not always true that the harder athletes train, the better they perform. And as a very well-known sentence, the sooner the better. If I ask you to do some stuff, a task, and this task needs to be done quickly, I can say the sooner the better. The sooner the better. Also, we can use there to refer to separative. The turnout for the referendum. Let me explain what's the meaning of a referendum. Referendum is the process when the people asked to give their opinion about something. For example, in 2015, there was a referendum in the UK asking the people either stay within the European Union or exit the European Union, and the people prefer to exit from the European Union, which is called Brexit. And turnout is the number of people. How many people come to the poll station, come to the election, for example. So the number of the people is called turnout. The turnout for the referendum on the euro was the lowest the lowest ever recorded. The lowest ever recorded. The lowest in the records. The lowest in all records. Also, another sentence. Which department is the most productive? Which department is the most productive? Or you guys, I can ask you, which course is the most important for you? Which the course is the easiest for you? Or which lecture is the most difficult for you? And so on. So we can use the in this way, or use the to make a comparison between time and trust, between training and performance, and so on. Now let's talk about the similarity. It's kind of comparing, but when the two things are similar to each other. So how can we do this, and what is the most important tools to do it? First, the same. The first tool is the same. Let's take this example. Cats and dogs have almost the same capacity to be domesticated. Domesticated means living at home. So cats and dogs have almost the same capacity, almost the same capacity. And now we need to note that we are using modifier almost to modify the same make it stronger or make it stronger or make it weaker. That's why they call them they are called modifier. So almost the same to reduce the tone of the sentence. If we see the same, they are the sentence will be stronger. Now they are almost the same, almost the same capacity to be domesticated. Also, another example, the proposal from Michel PLC is exactly the same as Barker's in its speed of delivery. So the Michel PLC is the name of a company, and Barker's is the name of another company. And the comparison here is between two companies. The similarity between the two companies. The proposal of the first company exactly the same. So we put exactly to make the sentence stronger, to increase the tone of the sentence, exactly the same as the broker. In what? In which term? In its speed of delivery. Another example, when they are observed, people do not behave in the same way as they do in private. And I guess this is quite this is true. This is very true because all the people behave differently when they are in public or when they are in private. So when they are included, obviously including me, when they are observed, people do not behave in the same way. They do not behave in the same way as they do in private. So there's a comparison by using the same by using the similarity between the similarity is a kind of comparison. The similarity between the behavior of the people in private or in public. Another tool is similar. Venus is the name of the second planet in the solar system. Venus is quite similar to Earth in mass and size. So Venus and Earth are quite similar in mass and size. Two ways to say the same meaning. Venus is quite similar to Earth in mass and size. And again, we use quite as modifier for similar. There are many other modifier like slightly to make the sentence to reduce the tone of the sentence. Superficially, fairly, remarkably, very, extremely to make it very strong, with very strong tone. The word similarity is also used in the same direction. Similarity serves the same purpose of other the same purpose of the previous tools. For example, there was a similarity in the approach taken to the crisis by the three companies. Thus, the three companies have taken the same approach in tackling the crisis. And we structure the sentence to use similarity. There was a similarity in the approach taken by the companies. Also, we can use different words or different tools to show the similarity to get the same meaning with different structure of the sentences. For example, let's take this example. All living organisms have several similarities. Have several similarities. We can restructure the sentence in such a way that all living organisms have several similar features. So I replace I replaced the similarities by similar features. Or I can say it in this way: all living organisms have several features in common. So similarities replaced by similar ones and by in common in another sentence. But we need to restructure the sentence, rebuild the sentence in the correct way. Alike is also used to show the similarity. France and Germany are alike. Alike is not a verb, thus we need a verb to complete the sentence. English sentence has to have a verb. So France and Germany are alike in that both support a thriving rental sector in their housing markets. Let me give you some information about the housing markets. And the housing markets, or if you want to get a house, you want to get an accommodation, you have two options: buying a house or renting a house. And because the prices of houses is rising, increasing, not just here in Iraq, it's everywhere in Europe, in America, in Canada, everywhere in China. The rental, the other option is increasing, which is rent a house. Instead of buying a house, you rent a house. Those in Germany, in France and Germany, this sector, rental sector, is thriving, increasing significantly. So it's thriving. Like is also used in the same way. Like serves the same purpose. Dolphin and porpoises. Porpoises is another. Dolphin and porpoises are creatures living in water, but they do not breathe the dissolved air in water. Instead, they breathe through the blowholes on the top of their head, on the top of their heads. So dolphin like porpoises. Dolphin like porpoises. Another tool used to show the similarity is the connector, using the connectors like similarly, likewise. These two words are connector. They connect one sentence to another. For example, smog is damaging trees in the mountains of South China. This is the first sentence. The other sentence, similarly, starts with similarly or likewise. Likewise or similarly, acid rain is harming forest in the north of the country. So we are using the connector similarity or likewise to connect the second sentence and the first sentence, and giving the meaning that both sentences go in the same direction, which is damaging the tree in the mountains of South China and harming forest in the north of China. The last part of our session today is contrast. How to contrast an action to another action or from another action. Let's take some example to show the most important tools for contrasting. First example says, after working for several months, Stevens took a different path toward his goal. Now, Stephen is a name a name of a person. He worked on something for several months, and after working for several months, he changed his mind and took a different path toward his goal. Now we are contrasting the action of Stevens, which he who he took a different path toward his goal after working for several months. So this is the first tool used in contrasting different, the word different. Also, in the same direction, the approaches taken by the two companies are different, same as here, are different, unlike, dissimilar. These are three words used in contrasting, and the structure of the sentence is exactly the same. The structure of the sentence with these three words, different, unlike, dissimilar, is exactly the same. The approaches taken by the two companies are different, are dissimilar, are unlike, in that Brannan and Smith offers an ecological suitable solution. Brannan and Smith is the name of a company. This company offers an ecologically suitable solution. Thus, this sentence contrasts the approach of Brannan and Smith from the other company approach. We are talking about the approaches of two companies, and we contrast the approach of Brannan and Smith by saying they offer an ecologically suitable solution. So we give an advantage of the approaches of Brannan and Smith. The other way to show the contrast is using the verb differ. The verb differ. For example, in law, a responsive brief is different from, or differs from, is different from, because different is a noun, so we need to put is to make the sentence complete with a verb. Always remember, there is no correct English sentence without a verb. This is a noun, so we need to put any kind of verb. And for this sentence, response brief is the verb here. Or we can remove the is different from and replace it by differs. The verb differs from an original brief, in that it contains arguments directly responding to positions taken by the other side. A brief, to explain this sentence, a brief is the defense that prepared by the lawyer. The defense that prepared by the lawyer. Original brief is the defense that already prepared by the lawyer before the court. But responsive brief is the defense that instantaneously prepared to reply to the claim of the other side, the claims of the other side, or the brief of the other side. Another sentence here. Barker explored the key differences, the key difference between Barker is a name of a person. He explored the key difference between leadership and management. So he explored the key difference. He explored the key difference between leadership and management in a series of seminars held in New York in early 2010. Another important tool for contrasting is in contrast to or contrarily to. Let's take an example. An exit poll is in contrast to or contrarily to an opinion poll. Now we are contrasting an exit poll from an opinion poll. By the way, the exit poll is the asking people about their opinion or their vote directly after the election. That's why it's called exit poll. Exit poll. Poll is the poll is this is a station. For example, the poll station. So they when they exit from the poll station, some journalist or any questionnaire ask them what they voted. So in this sentence, we are contrasting the exit poll from the opinion poll. The opinion poll is when we do the questionnaire or when we do ask people before the election, before doing the vote. So we are contrasting the exit poll from the opinion poll by using in contrast to or contrarily to. The sentence says, in an exit poll, in contrast to or contrarily to an opinion poll, asks what was the difference? Ask members of the public to reveal how they have just voted. So this is an important way to show the contrast between two completely different action. Exit poll is different from the exit poll in contrast to or contrarily to an opinion poll, and be aware of the structure of the sentence. An exit poll in contrast to an opinion poll, and then comma asks members. Be aware of this structure. Possibly it's a new structure, but it's very important structure and a very good structure in academic writing and even in academic speaking. Another usage of in contrast to or contrarily to, we can put it in the beginning of the sentence. In contrast to, contrarily to earlier studies. So we are contrasting something new from the earlier studies. In contrast to or contrarily to earlier studies, researchers report that cholesterol measured in middle or old age showed no link to dementia. No link to dementia. So we are contrasting the new research from the old research. And we can understand from this sentence that the old research or the old studies refer to a direct relation between cholesterol in the middle age and old age and the dementia. But the new studies showed no link between the cholesterol and dementia. By the way, dementia is a brain disease, causes disorder in the memory of some old people. So we are contrasting in this sentence, we are contrasting the result of the new reports or the new studies from the results of the earlier studies, previous studies. Another use of in contrast to or contrarily to, we can use it as a connector of two sentences when the first sentence is talking about something and the other sentence talking about something completely different. For example, the 1983 earthquake in Santa Cruz Mountains occurred during an exceptionally dry period. So it's exceptionally dry period, preventing any large-scale landslides. The first sentence, the information from the first sentence, that there was an earthquake, a big earthquake in 1983, but this earthquake didn't cause a large scale landslides. Large scale landslides, because the weather was dry, exceptionally dry. It was significantly dry. The land was strong because it was dry, and there was no landslides occurred. In contrast, here we are contrasting a new sentence. We are contrasting a new action. In contrast, on the other hand, the great 1906 earthquake occurred after an unusually wet winter. So the great earthquake, or the great consequence of this earthquake in 1906 was because the unusually wet winter. So the winter was wet, the land was wet, and there was an earthquake. Thus, the consequence was significant. Here we are finishing our session today, which was about the comparing and contrast. Hope it was useful for everyone, for you. Thank you very much for listening.